So, hello everyone. I just thought we'd do another little one. So this is a quarter sheet of A4, so it's A6 size. And today we're going to be looking at trying to sort of build some textures and just playing really. So I'm just going to draw a bit of a hill here. And then the edge of a path, and then the other edge of the path going around, and then maybe a central line going somewhere like this. A bit of a gate maybe, or maybe it's a bit of a fence, or I don't know what it is. And then a good old tree trunk. With a nice sort of gnarly branch coming up. And maybe a little bit further down the road we've got a little fence post fence just going up and off in the distance. So when you're doing fence posts, you tend to go smaller and closer together along that line. Leave things for the imagination, that's good. And I think we're about there. So a very simple little drawing today. So I'm going to just get a little piece of candle wax, and I'm going to run a little bit across the top of those fences and those posts, just to preserve some light, and maybe down the side of this tree trunk a little bit, and then maybe a few little squiggles across this pathway as well. So I've got a few brushes out today. I've got my trusty little small mop brush, which I like from Mean. I've got a number 4 synthetic round brush. This one's from Winsor & Newton. I've got a number 1 round brush, and I've also got my trusty number 0 rigger that I use quite a lot as well. So I'm going to start with a little bit of a squirt on the paper, not too much, just to allow my paper to work. And I've just put some more water onto my pans. So let's get started. So I'm going to start with this gamboge yellow hue. Nice and light, lots of water into there. And I'm going to put that into the background of here. Plenty of water. Remember, watercolour dries at least 30% lighter, so don't worry if you're thinking it's quite bright. But plenty of water and plenty of colour into that space. Just have a bit of fun. Have some fun, because that's what we're doing. So into that, I'm just going to drop a little bit of ultramarine blue. So I'm just trying to make a nice sort of olivey green colour. There we go. So the same yellow base, quite a lot of water still on my palette, and we're just going to go and drop in some bushes or trees or whatever might be around this area. Just to add some interest. Being a bit careful around that tree trunk. And you can see there's quite a bead of paint on the bottom there. Those of you that know me will know that I don't particularly like that unless I'm going to use it. But so I've washed my brush out, taken the water off, and I'm just going to use it as a thirsty brush to suck some of that up. Plenty of water on my brush, and I'm just going to wash that away for now. There we go. So I'm just going to add a little bit of burnt sienna. So quite watery still. It is the background, so we don't want too much pigment into there. But I do think a little bit of burnt sienna will just bring a hint of autumn into it. So here we are, we're practicing wet on wet again. Letting the watercolours do their thing. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of ultramarine into that burnt sienna mix. So ultramarine and burnt sienna together. Little bits to get like a dark grey. Still quite watery. And I'm just going to darken some of these places at the base of the tree and under that. Under that tree trunk. Maybe into the forest a little bit there. And then a little bit of dark under those. So I wash my brush out, take the excess water off, and I'm just going to soften this away. Be mindful of the shape of that. And then that bit is going to have to dry before I'm just going to take that tree trunk out. So that's lifting away. So I've just washed my brush out, taken the excess water off so it's quite dry. Run your brush down and just wipe it off, and then you can keep going and let until you need to stop. So I'm going to let that one dry, and then I shall come back to you. Okay, so that one's quite dry. You might be able to see a little bit better. As you can see, it's gone soft, and in the background they are quite cool colours, apart from these sort of misty burnt sienna bits, but because they're pale, they're sitting well into the background. So now we're going to go and work a little bit of the foreground. So I've just given my paints a little bit of a squirt, and I'm going to use this one, which is a Rose Madder. It's a lovely pinky colour with a little bit of the alizarin crimson in, but mainly Rose Madder. I like Rose Madder, but you can use any warm colour you want because it's your painting, and I like that. And we're just going to do some of this side. We're just working a little bit into these spaces. Nice and wet, plenty of water. So still wet in wet for this, plenty of water. So that's the Rose Madder. So I'm going to drop in some of this, which we had the greeny colour, into there. That's part of a bank. And I want this bank to be a little bit cooler. So I'll wash my brush. And I'm just going to put a little bit of that shadow colour in, just to bring that across. And then I'm going to drop some thicker consistency Rose Madder into there. Wash my brush and then just push it away. Push it into the paper. I'm just going to add a little bit of ultramarine into that mix. So making like a light mauve colour. I'm just going to drop that along this bank edge. And I'm going to drop that up the tree as the base colour for the tree. So that's dry on dry, wet on dry, sorry. And then I'm going to just run that branch along as well. So lots of water pushing this away. So I've got a warmer foreground and a cooler background at the moment. And I'm just going to lift off. So wash your brush, take the excess water off with your peg towel, and then run lines down. So I'm just going to do the same with this tree trunk. I want to just lift off a little bit of shape. So we've got like another background colour. Whilst it's damp, I think I might just drop in a little bit of turquoise into that pinky mix. I do like turquoise, it's a lovely colour, lovely blue. Just to cool off some of this bank. I'm just going to push some into this foreground. I'm going to run a dark, because it's darker, just up that far side of the tree. Along that branch line again. Don't know why I'm whispering, but maybe because I'm holding my breath. So we've got a nice base. So I've just wet my brush, wash my brush out, take the water off. I'm just going to lift that bank shape again, and this front bit. So I'm going to just let that dry a little bit, and in the meantime I'm just going to pick up this, my number one, my trusty number one. I'm going to make a sort of a browny grey colour, so I'm going to start with burnt sienna. Add in a little bit of cobalt blue or cerulean blue, whichever you've got. And then a little bit of alizarin crimson. And it's going to make a warm brown colour. And I'm just going to take a little bit, so this was my turquoise mix, and add it into the turquoise mix to make a cool grey colour as well. So we could do with a bit of both. There we go. So I'm just looking at this. Just looking at this bench, it is dry. This, so I'm going to just run a line of paint, a little line of paint, wash my brush, plenty of water on my brush, and I'm just going to push it away underneath and push it into that backwash away from, so you're getting some depth. I'm going to do the same with the light grey at the top. So this is called negative painting. So wash my brush, just water on my brush, and I'm just pushing it into the pre-existing wash. Just water into the wash. So it's negative painting because we've left that light gate space. So this, we're going to do the same underneath here for the dark. So line across. You could go back in and just add a little line there and a line across here. Wash my brush, take some water off, rub it away, rub it away, rub it away. Then you're left with, so I'm going to put some light blue on the top, a little bit too much, lift it away with a thirsty brush. and you're left with the outline of the gate, just using the original colour. So I'm going to run the dark colour down the side, and I'm going to use the same dark colour over here on these fence posts. Now the first couple you can do a similar value on. The next ones you need to add water to get the less pigment on, because obviously as things go into the distance they become lighter, less defined. And then we're just going to run just realised we're just going to run nice and light all the way up there. I'm just adding a little bit of shadow under those fence posts while this is still damp. I've washed my brush, taken the water off, just to soften it away a little bit. So there we've got negative painting. I'm just going to go in with a little bit more orangey yellow here. So I'm just going to add some burnt sienna into that yellow mix that was on my palette. I want something nice and bright into this corner. So just run the colour in where you want it. Wash your brush, take the excess water off, and then just push it into the wash, and it just fades away a little bit. I just wanted a bit more contrast there, so I might use, so it doesn't look odd, I might just drop a little bit into the gaps around that fence post as well. Just building some layers up, really watery. Remember, you can always add to the really watery, and you've suddenly got a little bush that helps define the area. I'm just going to drop a darker, this is all with that little number 1, and I'm just going to put a darker line into there underneath. Wash my brush off, take the excess off, and just soften it away. Pushing it away. So there we are, we've made a nice little fence. So we're going to use the same technique to try and extend this fence this way, because it looks a bit odd because there's nothing there, or we could put a wall in. I think I'll just go for the fence. So I'm just going to put the dark in, put the dark in, put the dark in, trying to match it up. Wash my brush, take the excess off on a paper towel. And just soften it, soften that bottom line a little bit. I think this might be a little bit too much here, so I'm just going to lift. So wash my brush and I'm just going to lift some of that away. Just softening those away. And there we are. We've sort of made a little bit of more fencing without fencing. So I've just added a little bit of ultramarine blue into the mix. Just adding some shadows nearer the tree on this side and down here. Quite a lot of shadow. Wash my brush out, take the excess off and just push it away. Wash my brush, take the excess off my paper towel and just push it away. And you can do that as often as you want, but it's quite a nice technique. I'm just going to run the lighter blue across that top line here, just to give so wash my brush, water my brush, just not sopping, and then that just adds the in-between colour. There we go, that's quite nice. So we've got this little bush here, a little bush here by the gate. Oh, this fence line, we've got this different sort of fence here, and we've got a little fence going up on the side, so it's time to do something around this foreground that we've got. This is fairly dry now. Just grabbing a clean paper towel, and I'm going to use my number 4 round brush for this. So I want the foreground to sort of feel warmer still, so I'm going to still use that sort of alizarin crimson base, bit of ultramarine as a nice sort of shadowy colour, maybe a little bit of this cerulean mixed into there just to add a different blue into it. That's nice. And again, if you want to grey it off, you just add a little bit of yellow into there, but I quite like the colour. I'm just going to do a little puddle of this rose as well. So that's a nice colour, and it'll blend quite nicely with that. So I can get a dark purple, a mid purple and a pink. And then I think I might just use some of this quinacridone yellow as well around the area. So this is just quinacridone yellow. I'm just going to add some into this background here, pushing it just to make a bit more of like an autumnal feel. Wash my brush and soften it away. And I'm just going to drop in a little bit of burnt sienna into that as well. And that sets off, so just plenty of water, wetting wet, and it sets that tree off nicely. And starts adding some warm colour into this tree. And pick up a little bit of that pink colour and just drop it in. And a little bit of that darker purple. So I'm just trying to add the shadow colours onto the tree. Get some yummy colours. Nice purples and some darker shadow colours, just to texture that tree. I'm going to add a little bit of burnt sienna into the tree as well. And just have fun with whatever colours you want. So just plenty of water, soften it away. You're just making another wash. That's nice. That looks good. I'm going to just add a little bit of burnt sienna onto this edge of the bank. And a bit of this purpley pinky mix. Plenty of water and just soften it away into that. I'll just drop in a little bit of indigo and alizarin crimson into there. Just going to add a bit of shadow up the side of this tree. And under that branch, because normally where the branches go it's darker. We're starting to build this bank. Just going to soften those off. a little bit, plenty of water, soften away. That's the whole point of this little tutorial, is learning to soften away. Just soften things back. Some hard lines are nice, bring things forward, and then just to soften it back. So we're just now going to build a little bit of texture. So dropping in some darks, this bank a little bit, wash your brush out, take the excess off, soften up. Lovely way of softening back into existing washes and getting texture. So I've just mixed a little bit of my quinacridone gold with this rose madder and got a beautiful sort of autumnal orange colour that I'm just going to add into there. So that sense of autumnal colours coming through, and just dropping some colours in, water on, let it do its thing, soften it away a bit. It's quite a prominent colour, but it's nice. I've just added a little bit of the purple colour into the corner to get a dark version. Just building some darks along the way. A bit of dry brush work, always nice. And for paths, if you are working, just work across, so that helps it lie flat across. Plenty of water here. Whilst this is wet, I'm going to get my little table salt. It's still a bit damp, I might have caught it in time. I'm just going to add a little texture underneath there, and maybe on this bank. That might not be right enough. I've just added some alizarin crimson into the same puddle. Sorry, it's quite watery still. I'm just going to drop some of that. I don't really want to disturb the area too much, but that warmth of tone is really nice, and it's got that sense of like a messy path coming through. I'm just going to get my little mop brush again, wet it off, take the water off, and I'm just going to run and lift and do the same, take some water off. I want that pathway to stay So to get that, I need to drop, so I'm back onto my big mop brush, some darks into this middle bit. Whatever's on your palette. The base of that. Going to add some turquoise into this. As I said, it's one of my favourite colours. A nice, cool, but vibrant colour. And run that into. So you can see there's a definite path. So I'm now going to just drop in a little bit of Payne's grey. Well, that's damp. So working wet into wet, because that will diffuse beautifully. See the salt working on this side. And I'm just going to put a little bit of Payne's grey up the edge of that tree as well. I'm going to soften it back in a minute. So I'll wash the brush and then just soften that edge. So there we are, quite a nice little play. Again, using the wet and wet techniques, but also softening back and getting that sense of perspective and movement. Seeing where the darks need to go in order to build your pathway. Lifting off, we've done. This is just another layer of that dark. While it's wet, you can work. Once it starts drying off, it's more difficult. See the salt's starting to work there. Just going to give this a little spray just to help that diffuse, just a little bit at a distance, probably about 30 centimetres, and just a spray. That'll just help soften it a little bit. So I've just got to wait for that to dry. Here we are, we're near enough dry. Could be a little bit drier, but it's not bad. I quite like these different colours. So you've got this sort of different interest. I like how this has come down. The colours in the tree have worked well, and that little bit of texture I think is helpful on that bank. So we're going to just go for a purpley colour, whatever you've got in your palette. I'm just going to start to define this bank a little bit more. So again, paint on, take the paint off the brush and just rub it into the bank a little bit to just soften that edge. So any sort of purpley dark colour. So I want some of this bank to come across the path. I like that little blobble of light, so I'm just going to leave that. And these sort of more horizontal lines help lie the path down. Just wash my brush off, soften it off, leaving some water on the brush. So down this middle line, some blobs. You can see there's that nice bit of wax resist. Wash my brush off and give it a smudge. And then we'll add some into this bank. Randomly running more at the front. And then just rub it into the bank. Wash your brush, rub it in. Wash your brush, do it again if you need to. And that's giving me a nice sort of mixture of these colours. It feels like a bit of a nice autumnal path. I'm just going to add some of this sort of orangey colour, as if they're like little droppy leaves. Wash my brush and smush it back in. Is that a word, smush? I don't know. Just going to I'm just wanting to add that idea of movement along this pathway. And again, you can do as much or as little as you want with this. So I just want to add a little bit more detail here with a darker brown. So I'm just using either a neutral tint or a sepia or any colour like that. I'm just going to add just on these that are nearest to us. So I've just washed my brush, taken the paint and the water off, and I'm just letting that have a bit of a highlight. And I think I'm probably going to call that a day. It's not a bad little practice piece. Practicing those skills and techniques really, really helpful, and just using the colours that you like. So I hope that was helpful.